Hi everyone, I'm Marius Hoggenmüller from the University of Sydney.
And I'm Rayleigh from Cornell University. And we are presenting together our paper, Eliciting New Perspectives in Research through Design Studies through Annotated Portfolios, a case study of robotic artifacts.
The paper is co-authored with Hespanhol, Malte, Jung, and Martin Tomitsch. Ray and I are both interested in human-robot interaction in public spaces. Two of our individually carried out research design cases brought us together to work on this paper. Ray and her colleagues in the US developed BubbleBot, a mobile robot carrying the function of bubble blowing. Applying ludic design principles, the robot is designed to burst bubbles at passers-by. The aim was to trigger conversations about the future roles and interaction paradigms of urban robots. For an evaluation study, BubbleBot was deployed in a populated common area around Cornell University. We here in Sydney designed Woody, a slow-moving robot that draws on the ground with conventional chalk sticks, using the public space as a large horizontal canvas. The overarching aim was to explore a novel form of pervasive urban displays, which produces content in a physicalized form. We deployed Woody over 3 weeks in a quiet laneway in a northern suburb of Sydney as part of an annual large-scale festival. However, the presented work here is not so much about the individual case studies. You can find more information about the technical implementation and the user studies in previous publications. In this paper, we were more interested in the question of how to generate and document knowledge towards human-robot interaction by looking at the RtD cases collectively.
To extract and document the knowledge we learned from both of the projects, we chose to adopt and apply annotated portfolio on our robotic artifacts. The notion of annotated portfolio was originally introduced by Gavin and Bauer as a method to communicate design research. They combine visual collection and brief textual annotations of artifacts to outline similarities and family resemblance within the works. While annotated portfolios are widely used by the broader interaction design community, examples are still missing in human-robot interaction. As the first step to understand our robots, we applied the strategies of annotate interaction qualities and domains. By capturing the stylistic similarities across the projects, we portrayed a specific application area of urban robots acting as place-making facilitators and enabling ludic design in the city. Both robots have in common that they were oblivious of other people, and they did not support any form of direct input or reactions. Instead, the robot peer present and action fosters social interactions among people. In the next step, we mapped the design trajectories and iterations to capture some of the design considerations related to the morphology and behavior of the robots, and we look into how these evolve throughout the iterative design process. For example, the size of Woody was said to be slightly larger than a Roomba. This consideration was to follow the ludic design principle of defamiliarization and to increase the chance of the robot being noticed by passerby. The same consideration was also carried out by BubbleBot, as the research team greatly enlarged the size during later design iterations. We decided in the next step to take a closer look at the output produced by the robots. While both robots extrude external materials, we found that the notion of content was a constant concern when designing Woody, but not so much for BubbleBot. For BubbleBot, the bubbles it produced are meant to have short durabilities. As for Woody, the chalk drawing could last for several hours to days. Interestingly, when looking back into early design phases, we found that the interplay with the immediate physical surroundings play an important role in both projects. For example, both design teams tested the robot and their produced output on various surfaces. Finally, we reflect upon our early visions and ambitions regarding the level of autonomy that we intended to implement with our robots. In both cases, we envisioned a base station for the robots to which they would navigate autonomously for charging the batteries and refilling the extrusion materials. However, both of us ended up have to manually exchange the batteries and renew the extruders. We capture our role and experience through the portfolio as the robot's caretakers. Throughout applying the 4 annotation strategies, we were able to generate conceptual themes and articulate designerly knowledge from our robotic artifacts. With interaction qualities and domain aspects, we capture stylistic similarities. For example, in our case, we can inform the future design for looted urban robots, offering pointers to design considerations. Second, by mapping the design trajectories and iterations, we pointed out the shared concern and how they were addressed in each case individually over time. This promotes and stresses on the importance of looking into the knowledge embedded in the iterative design processes. Third, zooming in on a specific aspect has helped us to bring out some of the inherent characteristics of each robotic artifact and to elaborate how those influence passerby engagement. In our case, we captured the interplay between robots and environment, which requires constant attention throughout the design process. Finally, by constructing ideal and reality, we unveil some of the dead ends in the design process and understand our shared perception of the robot's capabilities. It helps reveal some of the challenges when it comes to permanent integration of robots into public spaces.
After creating our own portfolios, we conducted remote workshops with other HRI experts to annotate the same robotic artifacts. Our aim was to investigate what new perspectives can be brought in through external viewpoints. We conducted 6 workshops with HRI researchers. The workshops were carried out individually via Zoom and facilitated through an online whiteboard. We reviewed the transcripts from each online workshop session separately and conducted a thematic analysis to identify common themes. To get further insights on how the participants annotated the 2 projects, we also reviewed relevant video segments, as you can see here in the background. There was a tendency that textual accounts made earlier in the annotation process were more on a surface level and of a descriptive nature relating to the robot's appearance. Later on, participants also often added more conceptual annotations relating to the deployment context, the making process, and the broader methodological concerns. Based on the experiences from the expert workshops, we discuss in our paper what to expect from this form of inquiry. In the simplest form, expert annotations can increase the saturation of an annotated portfolio. We argue that through multiple viewpoints, additional and previously not considered themes can be derived. For example, one of our participants pointed out several design patterns which we have not considered in our own portfolio. Annotations made by experts may carry the annotator's stance, which in turn can help the designer to re-evaluate their design decisions in retrospect. Expert annotations can also support designers with positioning their RtD cases to existing body of work in the field. In our case, for example, participants proposed that both robots carry the function of a subtle opening encounter, which has been previously discussed for social robots in non-urban environments. Expert annotations can offer reflections on the contributions of RtD more broadly and trigger discussions of how to capture and disseminate designerly contributions. One of our participants, for example, added the annotation knowledge in the process and mentioned the role of hacking cultures in HRI, but also more general in HCI. He further elaborated that technical aspects in HRI studies are often not well documented, and therefore the potential to build on top of others' work is not fully tapped.
To conclude, first, our work shows that annotated portfolio can serve as a legitimate form of inquiry to congregate HRI design work and advance the understanding of what design means to HRI. By applying annotated portfolios, we were able to extract conceptual implications from our work, which help inform future design and offer insights to other designers. Second, our work show that expert portfolio can elicit new perspective on research through design study in the form of a creative and generative peer critiques. Finally, beyond HRI, we suggest that annotated portfolio can be applied to other technology and science-driven domains, where research through design studies might add valuable perspectives. We would like to thank the organizer and participant of the Designerly HRI Knowledge at Roman 2020 workshop. The feedback and discussion have further inspired our work. Thank you all for listening. We are happy to take any questions you have.